One of the things she said, where is it? She said that she was doing his ex a favor because he was abusive and because he was arrested and charged with assault. And so she's like, I did this bitch a favor, while also saying like what a nasty cunt she was. Welcome back to Show Me Yours with Jackie and Jonny, everyone. I'm Jackie Agnew.
I'm a very sweaty Jonny DeVito.
And thank you so much for joining us again. Please, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, leave a comment, follow us on Instagram, Facebook. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review.
That's where I listen.
Yeah, nice. And wherever you're listening, just give us a subscribe. Share
Absolutely.
with your friends.
That's an important one, I think. That's the important one. Tell somebody about the fun that you're having over here. You know what I mean, right? Like, why leave everybody out of the party?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're just partying by yourself. Is that what the world's come to now, Jackie? With COVID, with with everything, with lockdowns and isolation, it's like, are you just keeping this party to yourself?
Exactly.
You know, if
Sharing
that's the case,
then
yeah, absolutely.
While we're here, should we plug some dates?
Shit,
Let's get these
when is
going
this coming out?
Monday. Tomorrow.
Oh, this is going to be out Monday? Oh, yeah. Cool. I'm going to close out a show, I think, for the Comedy Ring on Thursday. What would that be, August 5th?
Yeah.
I'm going to be doing that one over at the Den on Robson Street. And then the next night doing 2 shows for Awesome Comedy at Abbott and Pender there at the Keto Cafe. And then you do yours. I'm going to pull mine up here.
So this Wednesday, the 4th, I'm at the American on Main Street. That's at 9 p.m. Thursday, the 5th, I'm at Keto Cafe, the Bomb Shelter, I'm on the 8 p.m. show. The 7th, which is Saturday, I am doing a show, but I don't know where it is yet. The 12th.
Comedy Ring. Shout out to the Comedy Ring.
The 12th, I guess that would be next Thursday. So I'm assuming that's probably at the Den. 13th, I'm doing 2 shows next Friday. Comedy After Dark at Keto Cafe at 7 and 9:30. 14th, again, don't know where that show is. And the 18th, I'm at Pat's Pub at 7:30.
Shit, that's all over the place.
Yeah.
I'm doing, so the 5th and 6th, like I said, one on Robson Street at the Den, one at Keto Cafe. The following week, on the 11th, I'll be at Keto Cafe again as well. 13th, 14th, 15th, 20th, 23rd for Comedy Ring. I have no idea where those are, but we'll keep you guys posted as long as I know.
You'll know when we know.
Yeah, and I'm doing the 31st Laugh Wild at King's Comedy in Kits, so that should
Nice.
be fun too. So come and support the local comedy and come get your yuckles from these wackos.
Yeah, exactly. So today we're doing a Faces album, which I'm very excited about. A nod is as good as a wink to a blind horse. It's a mouthful of a title.
Yeah, it's a good title.
Yeah.
A little wordy. I like a wordy title, like a long title.
Yeah.
I mean, never been one to shy away from the long title. A big fan of the Lawrence Arms. They're into that stuff.
Yeah, but before we get into that, we have a few things to cover first. So how about before we get into this story, how about you tell me about what happened?
The thing is, Jackie, is that don't mess with tradition.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean, right? I was at a barbecue place just more like a few hours ago, right? And granted, we're in Canada, so I mean, like, I don't know. I've never been to the South, so I don't know, like, you know what? But I like this place. You know what I mean? They got good meat. Fill my mouth up with all kinds of meat from this place. You know what I mean, right?
Yes,
so I'm going
course.
there for the hot meat injection.
Yes.
And
Are we naming the place?
No, it's fine, right? It was it might have been a miscommunication. But I might have. There's a lot here that I think that I could break down. I think behaviorally from me, like I could have handled it better, and they could have been a little bit more polite, maybe. But there's no reason to throw this fine establishment under the bus. But it just happened to me a couple hours ago, so I feel like we should talk about it. And The classics that I like when I go to like a barbecue place, like if I'm just gonna like eat the fattiest food possible just by myself in a corner, right? Then I want a brisket sandwich,
Right.
and I want a side of like like the baked beans. You know, they do them with
Yeah.
with all the stuff in it
Yeah.
and shit, right? So that's just a, a nice little order, right? Get a little pint of beer, hanging out, like enjoying the Sunday, right?
Yeah.
We had a kind of a wild like get home from traveling. Bunch of shows and stuff like that,
Yeah,
right? So it was a heavy. This is the first day that I've really had to fucking I haven't had to write 40 jokes for the fucking roast that I lost first round of Peter Grant. Fuck.
Yeah, it's been a very busy week since you got back.
So I'm gonna enjoy the meal, and I can't enjoy it if it's not the way that I want it,
Okay.
or the way that it's ordered, right? So for a brisket sandwich, honestly, if it's just like I could eat good brisket between two pieces of white bread and like that you threw on the floor.
Right.
I love this shit, right?
Yeah.
But this one they got like a nice little brioche bun, and they do lettuce, tomato, onion on a brisket barbecue sandwich, which is fucking dumb.
Okay.
It's not the way to do it.
Right. Okay.
When they have their own house-made coleslaw, that is delicious.
Right.
I would. It's like I feel like a girlfriend that like my boyfriend like I think he's cheating on me, but I don't know. You know what I mean, right? So I'm still like gonna throw that kind of shade. I'm not ready to break up yet, but like I know that like we're on the rocks a little bit right now, right? So pardon me if I turn into a catty bitch, Jackie.
Okay.
The thing is that when I ordered the sandwich, I specified to like replace, because I've been there a lot. Like I know what they're up to back there, right? Everything they do, I feel like they do it the right way. Like I said, I've never been to the South, so I don't know really like a whole lot about like the traditional barbecue. But as far as like I'm concerned, I worked at like Memphis Blues. Like we have like a barbecue place here and stuff like that. The idea of putting lettuce, tomato, and onion on any sandwich at a barbecue place isn't like a fish sandwich, like catfish or something like that. Then get the fuck out of here, right? For me.
Okay.
And I don't mean to get heated about it, but when somebody like I never send food back. That's another thing too.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
So I didn't like what I had ordered, so I decided to send it back. Literally just to take lettuce, tomato, and onion off of it, and put like a fucking ice cream scoop of coleslaw on the thing.
Right.
Very simple,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
Well, this gal was, kind of in like an attitude or whatever, and like her explanation was like, well, no, that's the way we do it. And I could just pull that off and eat a fine sandwich of just like, like the meat in the bun or whatever, right? But not when I know that there's fucking coleslaw back there, and that's not when I want it, right? So it seemed absurd.
Request. It's an easy request.
Yes. But Jackie, the plot kind of thickens.
Okay.
And I kind of have my headphones in the whole time. And I'm realizing that I'm doing this more and more. Maybe like quarantine and isolation like we were talking about, but I'm like I just have my headphones in.
Yeah.
When I'm in like a public setting, like I should have the headphones out. I should greet people, eye contact, be a fucking human being about the thing.
Right.
But I chose not to do that. I was kind of listening to this album. Doing some homework for said episode that we're doing right now.
Yeah.
So basically I was so blown away that there was just even any miscommunication, right? Like it should have just been like a quick exchange. No apology necessary, no big deal. 5 seconds, boom, boom, in and out. Right? Because when you're at a barbecue place, like I ordered that thing, she like turned around because it's all ready basically, right? Bang, 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 chop it up, put it on the thing, boom, there you go, right? Yeah. It's the fastest, it's weird because it's slow cooking, but it's like the most fast food or whatever that you could get.
It's already prepared.
Absolutely, right? Unless you get like some fries or something, you're gonna have to wait a couple minutes. But other than that, like the beer is fine. I love the it's like they always got like blues and shit playing, you know what I mean? Like the decor is cool. There's pictures of guys with trumpets and shit like that, you know what I mean, and old wood and stuff like that. Like everything is perfect. Like why are you fucking with my afternoon? And then I think that what had happened was just kind of like I don't know if she was busy, but there was tables there and stuff like that. So like when that exchange that's very simple goes on for like 5 back and forths, the table next to you starts to think that you're an asshole.
Right. Okay.
Right. And so then I was just starting to get the eyes, and I kind of realized like I do look like a fucking jerk right now.
But
because
why?
Because I got snooty and I raised the voice a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Right. She was like, "Oh, well, you don't want it like this," and I said, "No. If you could, like, I asked for the coleslaw instead," and she was going, "Oh, well, I can bring you like a side of coleslaw." And I'm like, I don't want to pay for the extra side of coleslaw or whatever. Like, and she's like, oh, well, this is the way that we do it. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not the way that I ordered it.
Yeah.
And then, like, you know, it was like the record screeches. It's, you know, some Fun Love and, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Kind of music and everything. And then the
Yeah.
whole dance stops. And like, people look at me. And even, like, there was some snotty kid at the table that, you know, like a little family of 4 or whatever. And the kid
Yeah.
even was, like, turned to me and he's like, whoa, bro.
Yeah.
Maybe you shouldn't handle it like that. And I felt bad about it too. But, like, I think that regardless of, like, the fact that if that was the way that it was ordered or I should have, like, handled it a little bit. But what the fuck are we even talking about, Jackie?
Well, okay, so there's a couple things going on here. One, that should be at any reasonable, any server who's trained properly. For a simple request like that, you want to accommodate the customer.
You'd
and
think so,
it's
right?
so easy to just take it back to the kitchen and to sub it out for coleslaw. Like, it shouldn't have been a back
It's like
and
this
forth.
and like that.
Exactly. And then
Crown the bun, send it back.
yeah, so it shouldn't have been an issue at all.
Okay.
So you have that one.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I
You
feel
ever
like
raise your voice in a restaurant?
no.
Oh, okay. Because, like, my dad has done it, like, a
Okay,
couple times.
this
Sorry.
is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like there is like an age that people get to where they like become where they start like
Oh, do you think?
speaking like kind of talking back or to cut food service or customer service or whatever.
I never want to be that guy.
Well, because yeah, none of us ever do.
I work
but I've
like
like
so many. Everybody works in the
well, yeah, and like I've seen both my parents do it in all sorts of situations so many times.
Horrifying,
and it's
right?
always so embarrassing when
It's
you're
awful.
with that person.
Yeah.
And they both worked so many different customer service and food service
Yeah,
jobs.
right?
And in my head, I'm always like, how do you not remember what it's like? But clearly, I think, because everyone's parents do it. And most people's parents have probably worked customer service at some point. But, like, I
Jackie,
feel
I
like
watched
there's
my
a certain...
dad tear into a guy at McDonald's. Like, I'm coming down here to visit, right? Like, when I was a kid, you know, a couple weeks in the summer, a couple weeks in the winter kind of thing, right? So we, like, just get into town. Pop's like, hey, let's go into McDonald's. And I can't remember if we got burgers and didn't get fries or if we were just waiting too long for the whole thing.
Yeah.
But we're sitting in a booth, like, around the corner. Like, I can't see the
Yeah.
counter.
Yeah.
And my dad's like, what the hell's going on here? And he goes up there. And he starts fucking losing his mind on this poor young kid that's over the counter. And me and my brother, like, get out of the booth. And we, like, come and, like, look around and shit. My auntie's there. And she's just like, oh, for
Yeah.
fuck's sakes, you know? Another time at the Colander, if you're ever in Trails, fantastic Italian restaurant. We go in, like, with my family, like, you get the entire back room, like a table of 50 or something like that, right? So we're having this big thing. And they brought out chicken and potatoes and salads and stuff like that, like a little kind of like first course thing. And then, like, 5 seconds later, brought out all the pasta. And Jackie, you would have thought that somebody shot the fucking, I don't know, prime minister, president, wherever the fuck you are.
Yeah.
But everybody started to lose their fucking mind.
Yeah.
And my dad and my nono, God rest his soul, are the ones that are leading the fucking charge
Right.
at high school kids.
Yeah, yeah.
That are just running food
Yes,
out.
Yes.
You know what I
Oh my
mean, right?
God, yeah.
To the point where, like, it's a small town. My nono knows the guy that owns the fucking place or whatever, right? And then they're getting involved, right? So
Right.
I don't know, at some point maybe there's some fishy shit, like he didn't want to pay for 50 fucking people or something like that,
Right.
or didn't want to, you know, do it like that. But they're knocking shit off the bill and stuff like that, right? And I'm just
Yeah.
like, why are you guys are ruining dinner?
Right? Every time you're like with, especially if it's like a parent, because it's
Yeah.
just like the shame and embarrassment. And especially if you have like worked in food service or customer service at all and you've been on the receiving end of that, where you're like, I'm just like a fucking foot soldier here. Like,
Totally.
I have no control over the situation. But there was one time in particular that I
Pardon my sweat.
remember.
Jesus Christ, it's hot in here. It's muggy in Vancouver. Oh my God.
We can move the fan a bit closer.
No, I think we're okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be all right. I
there's
got my sweat rag.
Yeah. There's one situation in particular I remember when I was in first year university and I was flying back to school after Christmas break.
Yeah.
And I really didn't want to go back.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was already like an emotional morning. Like I was like crying to my parents and they had to like pep talk me to like get back on the the plane and like go back.
So they're
to
already
school and
having a
stuff.
morning.
So it was yeah. And so then my dad drives me to the airport in Victoria, which is about an hour and a half from my place. And we get there, and I forget what the exact situation was. It was something like I had a layover that was like a really quick turnaround, and my dad was like a bit concerned about it. And he like asked the lady that was checking us in at the counter, like, do you think like this is like, do you think that this is going to be an issue? And basically her response was, well, that's how the airline booked it. And my dad was like, yeah, but like, do you think in like your experience that this might cause a problem? Because, my daughter's, flying alone, and like, I don't want her to get stranded in an airport.
Yeah.
And her response was just kept going back to, well, that's how the airline does it. And my dad eventually like snapped and was like, well, I'm asking for your personal opinion on how it happens. And I remember he was like, what's your name? What's your name? And it was some ridiculous name like Fanny or something.
That's the best. And like, so after they get the name, they just keep using it to punctuate every sentence. Now listen, Fanny, this is what you're going to fucking do for me. Okay, Fanny?
He put like some stank on Fanny. He was like, okay, Fanny.
It's a ridiculous name.
Yeah, it was like a name like that where it was like in any other situation I would have been like chuckling.
Sure. Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I was like fucking like 18 years old.
Yeah.
Like just
it's
like
a
already
vagina in
like
England.
yeah, like already like had like a rough morning, and like in my head like the mindset I was in was like just like get through these flights, like don't start crying and on the plane or anything, like get through these flights and get back to my dorm, and just then I can let it out when I get back to Montreal.
Yeah, just stay strong.
But I'm just like in the zone
trip.
here, yeah. And then it was this whole fucking exchange. My dad yelling at the customer service representative in like the airport. It was just like mortified, and like he was doing, like he was. It was because like I was having like a rough morning, and like
the
tears
day's
were
already
flowing,
fucking awful,
and he
right?
was like trying to like help me, and like really didn't want this flight to be an issue, but it just, because it was already, emotions were high, it just escalated so quickly.
It became an issue.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I've never been like a customer service situation. For me, it's always been in a restaurant. Or something like that. But that's a cool setting. Like, it's just like
yeah, that was a different one.
Because you can get like an airline representative or some customer service person that can like make or break your whole fucking your trip or whatever, your whole day, right?
Yeah.
Just based on their fucking attitude.
Yeah.
And that's not cool.
Yeah, when we were flying back from Montreal, the fucking bitch flight attendant told me I couldn't put my feet up, and it ruined the rest of the flight for me for no fucking reason. That I couldn't, because we were sitting.
Absolutely absurd. Yeah, for context.
Yeah.
There's a bulkhead there and a wall, so there's not like, you're not putting your feet on anybody else's chair.
Yeah, exactly. And
you're
like,
not fucking with anything.
Yeah, and my feet, like, it was like the perfect length where I
so
could like
jealous.
rest my feet up, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like, no one is being impacted by
Totally.
this. I was in the middle of the row. Like, literally, it's not bothering anyone.
Absolutely.
And it's a wall. It's not like it was a I don't know, carpeted wall or anything like that. Like, it was like a hard surface, and nothing is being ruined.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's like, oh, like, put your feet down. It's like, fucking why? Like, and
maybe
she
if
had
you
already
had like dog shit on your shoes or something like that, I understand like the thing is, but it was the stank.
Yeah,
it's always the stank, right?
And
it's the way that it's set.
She had already, because we were sitting at the bulkhead, and so there are washrooms right there, like literally a foot away from us. And at the beginning of the flight, she was like, just so you know, the washrooms that you'll be using are like back in the middle of the plane.
We were already
so
like,
we were already
well,
like,
okay.
Fuck you.
I
Like,
can smell the farts from the bathroom. That's how close we are.
Yeah.
And we have to walk to the back of the plane.
Yeah,
Not cool,
that's
man.
such bullshit.
Yeah.
And so, that was like, and it was such like a minor thing, but it just like threw me through a loop.
Well, I mean, honestly, at the end of like a travel day too, like anything,
Mm-hmm.
any indiscretion at that point is like fuck off. When we got into the Uber and the guy was like ready to fucking stab the taxi driver when we were leaving the airport, like at that point, like that could not have gone any better, because there's after the day of a long trip when like you're just kind of like at the whim of like airlines and stuff, there's no face to it. Then you get into that Uber driver and you're like, that guy's going to fucking throw down to get us where we have to go in the least amount of time.
Yeah.
And
because we had already
awesome.
decided to like go for the Uber instead of like getting on the train and dealing with all of that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, it just would have been a pain in the ass. But yeah, he was ready to
exchange.
stab that fucking guy.
Are you fucking kidding me? You're a fucking idiot.
I love that he just like, he screams his lungs out at this fucking guys, right? Threatens violence, speeds around them, and then looks back at us all cash like, right?
Yeah.
that was awesome.
Yeah.
That's fucking right.
Yeah.
He
But
was totally in the room.
but yeah, I don't think I have ever really lost it at any sort of customer service. I've definitely have had like terse exchanges.
Yeah.
But nothing too bad yet. My parents are, because they know that I get really embarrassed when
Sure.
it happens around them, so they always say they're like waiting for the day that I finally turn, because they're like, it always happens, like you hit an age and you just want things done the way they're supposed to be done.
Well, there's a level of like entitlement that comes with that age where it's like, you can't believe that person's so fucking dumb.
Yeah.
Right, for a task that you could so simply handle yourself, right? And I think that that's where like where my pops is coming from. Like, I will go back there and do the fucking job for you.
Yeah.
Right? But
I will scoop the fucking coleslaw.
yeah. I apologize. Like, honestly, like, yeah, you know, you get into a fight and you kind of know that, like, you were both a little bit in the wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like, I hope that, like, I see her tonight when I get to bed and I'm like, you know, we both say like, I'm sorry at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of, that's the ending I'm hoping for.
Yeah, yeah. Just
because
recreating it in your mind.
Over and over again, a situation that woman will never think about.
Yeah, yeah.
Is going to be
just like one of many assholes she had to deal with today.
Yeah, totally, right? But for whatever reason, that exchange is just going to be like, you know, burned into my memory. So
yeah.
Could have handled it better.
Yeah, but she also could have handled it better.
Oh, fuck,
it's
yeah.
a very simple request.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous, right? But,
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, right? Just
yeah. Well, do you feel better now that it's off your chest?
a little bit, yeah, because
Yeah.
once, like, I fought for my rights, you know, I stood up for what I thought was right. And the coleslaw came on the bun, and it was a fantastic dining experience.
So you
after
got
that.
it. You got what you wanted in the
Yeah.
end. Okay.
Yeah,
good.
of course. I would not. It's a $17 sandwich, Jackie.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah,
like, I mean,
yeah,
it's low
yeah.
and slow. They take care of the shit or
Yeah.
whatever. So I understand if you're paying more. That's $17 sandwich.
Yeah,
If I could get a $9 donair across the road, that's like honestly more food, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You're making a choice at that point,
Totally.
you know, to support that, right? So I wanted it,
Nice.
you know, but it's not.
Well,
yeah.
happy ending then.
I
You
think
got what you
so.
wanted.
Overall, yeah.
Yeah.
Just a roller coaster ride of emotions
Yeah.
to get there. So.
Well, speaking of a roller coaster, I want to talk about this story. So a woman has gone viral on TikTok after posting a video explaining when she learned that her now ex-boyfriend had been cheating on her with his ex. She hosted a fake funeral for him. So I'll go into the details.
Yeah, like I have so many questions. So break it down for me.
So
first,
while this woman was pregnant, her baby daddy had an affair with his ex. And after she gave birth, she found out about the affair. And then shortly after their baby was born, the dad was arrested for assault. And then his ex was messaging him, like asking what was going on. Why wasn't he replying to her messages?
And he's in jail and the phone's at the house where
Yeah.
the wife is.
Exactly. So she replied, well, so she saw the messages and then messaged the ex herself saying that he had died. And she went so far as to like recruit her the baby daddy's family members to get in on it, and they had a fake funeral and sent the ex photos from the funeral. And
This is so fucking wild. Where
Right?
did this happen? Like, who are these people that did this?
so I
Do we
believe
know, like, nationality?
So in the videos, she has what I perceive to be a British accent.
That makes, I don't know, like vindictive fucking,
Yeah.
like this seems like the Tudors, or you know what I mean, some highfalutin shit or whatever,
Right.
because the amount of hassle that you would have to go to stage a funeral
Right?
for some bitch.
The fact that his family was in on it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And honestly, from jail, like, you hear, like, you know, your girlfriend goes and your wife goes and beats up your girlfriend, right?
Mm-hmm.
It happens to the best of us, I'm sure. You know,
Right.
and when you go, oh, you know, that bitch is crazy, right? Never once would you assume that they would go to those lengths as to recruit your family. And what's up with dude's family?
Right?
That they're
Yeah,
like,
just
fuck yeah, that's
fuck yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah. And so it's been 3 years now, and she still thinks he's dead. And she posts little tributes every year on the anniversary of his death to the love of her life and how she's sorry she couldn't be there when he died. And so this girl that made the videos,
Did she say the cause of death? Was it like car accident? Because that's
I don't
fucked
know.
up.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So I
funny.
didn't watch all the videos. I'm sure she goes into much more detail, but basically she did because obviously people were questioning the validity of this story. It's pretty fucking wild.
Yeah.
And so she pulled up some receipts, and so she showed screenshots of some
Casket
of these posts.
rental.
Well,
what?
she showed some of the photos from like the fake funeral, and she showed screenshots of this the ex's posts memorializing.
That's what I saw. You did send
Yeah.
me the memorial post.
The one that I sent you the screenshot. One month tomorrow you left. You said goodbye to your demons. There was nothing anyone could do. This was your peace. If I could have done more, I would have. But I know you left, knowing I always had your back and always loved you. R.I.P. Scott. Forever my last love. XXX.
Do you think he's hearing about this and he's seeing all that shit? Because I think if you could get like log on to Facebook from jail or something like that, like whatever, if he could ever get, like, look at that.
Mm-hmm.
I bet his wife isn't sending him love letters like that, right? So if he's in for a period of time where he's kind
Yeah.
of like, damn, you know what I mean?
Well, apparently he's still currently in jail, but he has found out about this ruse, and he just kept the lie going.
Well,
Because
I mean, at this point, yeah, because you're already caught cheating, right? You're in.
I don't think
you're
they're
fucked.
together anymore. The baby daddy and the baby
yeah,
mama.
that's fantastic.
And
right?
one of the things she said, where is it? She said that she was doing his ex a favor because he was abusive and because he was arrested and charged with assault. And so she's like, I did this bitch a favor, while also saying like, what a nasty cunt she was, and how much she deserved this.
Oh, not even a little bit vindictive at all. I like it. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I think that it's clever. It's insanely original.
Right?
You know, like, I don't know of anybody who would go like through that. Like, she just has to be like an ultimate prankster or something like that. The original prankster. How could you?
The question that I have is, and maybe this is addressed in the videos.
Yeah.
What about the mutual friends? It's not like they live in a vacuum where no one else.
There's no way,
knows
right? Like,
that
that's why I
he's-
think
yeah.
that like the story has to be kind of bullshit or whatever, unless like there is no mutual friends, right? Maybe like in the
Yeah.
days of Tinder and stuff like that, you know, like you just might meet
Maybe.
somebody, and yeah, there's really
She did
no
say
other
that the
connection in
ex had
between
like
there.
since moved out of state, and so there was like no risk that they had been
Do
communicating.
they say out of
because-
state and fucking who knows where? That's
Oh
insane.
yeah, maybe it was. I have no idea. Maybe it wasn't out of state. I don't know.
That sounds like some
Uh,
Becky shit for sure.
Yeah.
Like too much time and money on her hands.
Maybe it was in the States, but I swear she had an accent in the videos. But maybe
That's
it was
fair.
like someone else speaking on her behalf.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's yeah. I mean it's cool. It's fucking crazy.
It's so petty. I love
Have
it.
you ever done anything petty like that? Like, I mean,
I-
obviously not to
so-
that extent, but
I was
that's not
trying to.
my game.
I was trying to think about that because I was gonna ask you if you'd ever done anything petty like that, and I was trying to. I really don't think I have. I don't really do shit like that. Like I really don't. I can't think of anything.
I don't
that
know.
I
I
would've
probably
done,
have
yeah.
like I mean like in high school or you know what I mean like might have done something that's probably
Mhm.
slipped in my mind. I don't know. There's an ex or two that I'm sure will be like fuck yeah,
Mhm.
but yeah, off the top of my head,
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Definitely
that.
nothing to this.
no. I keep all that shit
To
like
this
I
extent.
keep privacy
I
is
have
important.
definitely
fuck?
told not hurtful lies or anything like that, but I have definitely told like somewhat elaborate lies to like get out of shit, like
Sure.
pretending that I've like that I'm like out of town or something
I have
like
to go
that.
and play golf with guys tomorrow. I'm currently thinking of the lie to get out of that.
Yeah,
as we speak.
yeah, and I like, I shouldn't say this one because it was recent, but there was was sometime at some point in my life where I said that I was somewhere that I wasn't, and I almost went so far as to like get people the place that I said I was. I have friends who live in this place, and I almost went so far as to get these friends to send me photos from where they were so I could like post them and stuff on like my stories and shit. I didn't.
What were you doing, Jackie? Were you just out in the night?
No.
Sounds like you were up to something.
No, I'll explain. I'll explain after. I don't want to say it on here because it was recent.
All right, I guess you know.
It's nothing.
I thought that we had a relationship with our viewers.
You know this.
What was I? Was I lying with you? Were we lying together? We were in cahoots.
I don't think we were. No, I wouldn't say we were in cahoots, but you knew that I was doing this.
I was open to cahooting, but not
you
needed
were privy to the scheme I was running here.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Yeah, we don't have to say it if you're uncomfortable about it. I'll tell you guys later, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, nothing this extreme. But I do know that mindset where you're just like trying to, I don't know, you get into this thing where you're trying to get out of something, or you're trying to, maybe in her case, get someone out of your life, and you just like take it to the extreme, and then it just keeps like snowballing and shit.
Totally. I don't know. I mean, lies are the thing that'll get you, right? But like, again, like we have a pretty good relationship with these people. I don't want to bring myself down that road, but maybe just like don't, because once you have to try to like keep up with that and stuff, it's it's definitely a good. It's a good skin to shed if you have a history of that. You should stop doing it.
Yeah, totally, definitely. Yeah, don't.
But yeah, I've been involved.
Yeah, well, yeah, and if you lie, it's so exhausting having to maintain that lie.
Yeah, it's
and
stupid.
especially like now, like I've hit my head so many times, my memory isn't good, and so I just like I have
you couldn't keep the story straight if you wanted.
Yeah. So I'm like, there's no point lying about it.
Yeah, the amount of energy that you have to put into it is not what I want to spend my day doing.
There was one time when I was working at the bagel shop on the island, and I was supposed to have a day off, and so I was like really stoned and like day drinking and shit, and she like called me into work, and I don't know, I was pretty young at the time, so I didn't want to say like, oh, I'm stoned and drunk. And so I was like, oh, like I'm sorry, I can't. I'm like in Victoria. I had to drive my friend to get an ultrasound. Which, in my defense, I had done that a week earlier. And so I was like...
You can't say, like, I mean, in my defense, you know what I mean, right? Like, I didn't get my balls sucked by that girl, but in my defense, like, I mean, I did slap her titties around a little bit with my penis, right? Like, it's kind of the same thing. But... regardless, erroneous even.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, Jackie, how fucking hot is it in this bedroom right now?
It is the area, but where my calves meet my thighs are sweating.
Oh man.
Okay, we'll move on to the album.
Please.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, Faces. This is a band that I think a lot of people sleep on.
I think that when you brought up Faces, I thought they were going to do the Mac Miller album. I was like, oh, that's
There's no
crazy.
Mac Miller album called Faces.
I thought there was. That's what I looked on Spotify, and it was like, boom, that's what the one was. It's when you look Faces on Spotify, that's the first thing that comes up. Moving on.
Okay. I think you're mistaken. But okay, this is the third album by the British rock band Faces, released in November 1971. And it's actually the second record that they released in that year. The first was Long Player in February of that year. And so the band was originally called Small Faces, and they didn't have Rod Stewart or Ronnie Wood in it, but the lead singer / guitarist Steve Marriott left to form Humble Pie, and so then Rod Stewart and Ronnie Wood joined the band, and they changed the name to Faces partly because Rod Stewart and Ronnie Wood were significantly taller than the rest of the band, and so they were no longer small Faces.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Strictly a stature thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so this is the band's most successful album, and generally like regarded as the most like consistent and like balanced of their career. And it's kind of like like if you want to get into Faces, listen to this album because it's like, you know, it's their sound. It really like epitomizes.
Yeah, they definitely have their sound going. It's like the fuzz rock 70s kind of like the guitar tones or whatever sound kind of cool and shit.
Yeah, it's very classic old school British rock.
Yep.
And so it's also, but this album was also kind of like the beginning of the end for the band because Rod Stewart's solo career sort of began eclipsing.
All I know about Rod Stewart's solo career is If You Want My Body and You Think I'm Sexy. So like, so this is not that.
So yeah, so we'll get into that too. But yeah, so when they recorded their next album 2 years later, Ooh La La, which is, you know, the single, I wish that I
that's these guys?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
So that was their next album.
Well, they have some hit on here, Stay With Me or whatever.
Yeah.
That's one that I recognized for sure.
And so, when they were recording that album, Ronnie Lane, who was a founding member of Small Faces, left because his role was being diminished as Rod Stewart was just shooting to fame.
Yeah.
And so they replaced him briefly, but ultimately the band disbanded in 1975. And so the members of the Faces are, as I said, Rod Stewart on lead vocals. Then there's Ronnie Lane. He's on bass, acoustic guitar, percussion, mainly bass. Then there's Ronnie Wood on lead guitars, so like slide, acoustic, pedal steel. And he does backing vocals too. And you might remember Ronnie Wood would go on to be the guitarist for Rolling Stones, his first album being Black and Blue.
It all comes together, Jackie. The creepy vampire guy in the back, the luckiest son of a bitch to get the job.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So that was 1976.
Ronnie.
Okay. So this is 1971. Then 1976. Then 1975, Faces disbanded.
So Ronnie's okay.
1976, he joins Rolling Stones.
How long would he be in the band for?
Faces?
Rolling Stones after that.
He's still in.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah.
Well, not bad, Ronnie.
And then we have I'm so sorry, I'm butchering these names. Ian McLaughlin on piano. Kenny Jones on drums.
That's a hard one to pronounce.
Yeah. And Harry Fowler on steel drums on one song.
Old
he's
Harry
not really
Fowler.
in the yeah. He's not really in the band proper, but he's on this album. Anyways, so the title comes from a Cockney expression that basically means like a hint or suggestion is like as good as getting a whole explanation.
Oh yeah, no, I go wink because it's one of those expressions or like idioms or whatever that just makes perfect sense. MF Doom said it in a line one time, and I was like, nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
And so the original issue of the album came with this like large poster that had this huge picture collage, and it had like, this band was notorious for like partying, and so the picture collage had like photos of like pills and drugs and a bunch of like naked groupies and shit.
Nice.
And but weeks after the record was released, the record company had second thoughts and reissued the album without this poster. And so
after the first like 1,000 copies are already out or whatever.
Yeah, so this poster is now like a collector's item because it was immediately like taken off the shelves.
Is this the original or is this a re-release?
This is a re-release.
So you don't have the poster? Okay.
Unfortunately. So as we were saying though, first you tell me what you thought of this album.
It was good. It was quick. I think for the music like this, I would much rather get it in like smaller doses rather than like an hour long record or something like that. So it came in at about like a little over 30 minutes, which I thought was nice. But other than the length of the album, like musically speaking, I do like those kind of like fuzzy guitar tones and stuff like that. It has that really old British rock vibe. I think unfortunately I think like rock and roll like for me was like, you know, turning a much cooler corner right around this time or whatever. So like obviously I could see why all this stuff never really, you know, got to me, but there's a really kind of cool storytelling vibe I think from a lot of these songs which I'm definitely into, but if there is any falter here, it's like maybe 70% of the stories aren't that interesting.
Okay.
to me,
sure,
right?
yeah,
So like
yeah.
musically it's kind of cool, but like they're just
Mhm.
like saying whatever they're saying and shit, right?
Right.
So I think, and then you have a song like Stay With Me that so clearly stands out.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? So goddamn clearly. Or Nashville,
Mhm.
so clearly stands out. Like as like,
Mhm.
I think like definitely like the front runners on the record. So I mean, for an album with, I mean, there's only what 9 songs on the fucking thing or something,
Right,
right? So
yeah.
those two like absolute bangers. Like I would put on like any classic rock playlist or something like that. I think
Mhm.
that's like kind of like the epitome of the sound or whatever. And there was a jam song at the end that I
Right.
didn't hate because I
Okay.
thought that they did it kind of like the right way or
Yeah.
whatever, right? Like it
Kind of
didn't
builds
bore me.
and yeah.
Yeah, I was sitting, I just
Enjoying your
fought a war
sandwich.
over coleslaw and then I realized kind of how long that song had kind of been going on for, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is a longer jam style tune that I don't
Yeah.
hate, so
Okay.
that was cool.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, I mean like this album I guess I never really like had too much of a relationship with the album itself,
Yeah,
but I mean like I love the band. They it's just like the kind of music that like I really enjoy and that like kind of reminds me of my childhood and stuff.
totally. Yeah.
Like this would have been this album I think came out right after Rod Stewart had his single Maggie May, which is like sort of the same kind of vibe.
Okay.
And that's fucking like
Isn't that the name
awesome.
of the first song on this one or something like
No.
that? Oh, okay,
No.
sorry. Yeah. It's the name of a bride.
Yeah. But that song is like one of my favorite songs ever. There's a scene in Lords of Dogtown where Heath Ledger's character at the end is like in the shop when he has to like go work in the back when his shop is bought out.
Yeah.
And he's just like jamming to Maggie May.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If it's there's a few like it like montage in like a movie like Blow or something like that.
Yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
has some of those like
Yeah.
those songs. I can't remember
Yeah.
exactly the name of a song, but
Yeah, but I guess I guess it just is more like nostalgic to me than
Totally.
anything.
Totally.
Though I still definitely like obviously listen to this music a lot.
yeah.
But like we were saying, so this era of Rod Stewart is kind of when like I think Rod Stewart was like still Rod Stewart. And
I don't, Jackie. When you're talking, the guy that you're talking to has no fucking idea.
So like you're saying, most people when they hear Rod Stewart now, they think, like, do you think I'm sexy?
Yeah.
And, like very like disco, like
Yeah.
poppy and stuff.
Bad haircuts, worse clothing, like
Yeah.
really make you uncomfortable, kind of when you're a kid, right?
Yeah, but this is like what he was before that.
This is cool. Like the
Yeah.
music here this is rock and roll. You know what I
Yeah.
mean, right? Like I'll give it that. Like I mean, be it a little soft or whatever for my taste. It's like it encompasses that time. If you think of like, 1971 at the end of like the hippie and the rock starting to get a little bit harder or whatever, then
Yeah.
I think that fits in perfectly.
Yeah, and this is like right at the peak of it, and then like I said, this is 1971. Do you think I'm sexy came out in like 1978? So
Yeah,
he,
for sure. Well, disco had to come through and take over.
So this was right when he was like hitting the peak of his solo career, and then the band kind of fell out because of that, and then everything he became a different kind of musician.
Isn't that weird? Like
Yeah.
when disco came in, I fucking heard this story. Like it's the Bee Gees. Their record label comes up to them, says, "You guys, like, nobody wants to hear anything that you're that you guys are doing right now. People want to hear disco, right? So get out of here." And they're like, "Well, no, we'll do disco." And the record label didn't want to hear it, so they record "Staying Alive" on their own dime, re-release it, and people find out that it's the Bee Gees. And then they like went on to bump themselves out of the number one Billboard spot, like fucking 4 or 5 times or something like that.
Yeah.
How ridiculous is that?
Yeah, I know. Disco is kind of weird like that. Like so many bands kind of like even Rolling Stones, their
It
album
came in and
Some Girls is like very disco-y.
It's a crazy flash in the pan.
Yeah, but so with Rod Stewart, so by the early 90s, he wasn't really he had pretty much abandoned like creating his own material because he said he felt like he wasn't a natural songwriter and that the response he was getting to like his new work wasn't worth the effort.
If somebody could
putting
write
in.
you a song like "Do You Think I'm Sexy" and then you could make Rod Stewart money, then I get that. But
Yeah,
like it's kind
but
of a
then
bitch move.
But in my opinion, it's kind of like a shame because if you look at like this music, I think that like he wrote some of like the most memorable classic rock songs with like Stay With Me, Ooh La La, Maggie May. And so,
Interesting.
but like he just doesn't feel like he's a good songwriter,
Okay.
which is wild to me.
Yeah.
And because of that, he doesn't really, write his own shit anymore. And so do you think that like people's like insecurities can get in the way of them achieving success or like staying successful, and like do you need kind of like a bit of an inflated ego to like really achieve great success and longevity? And obviously like Rod Stewart is still incredibly successful and he's had like a great career, but he's not doing what I think he was best at. And so do you need to like have some sort of like self delusion to kind of like keep going on that path of like
think
greatness?
That's a really interesting like outlier, probably, because I think in order to get to where he was, he had to work incredibly hard to kind of hone a craft, right? So then after that craft is more or less honed and you're making some of like the music of the decade or whatever, for you to turn around then and say that you're not a songwriter, right? Like I think that it almost sounds like he lost confidence over time in his ability.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's kind of crazy,
like, almost
because
as he got more famous, like
I don't know. I find like writing's a little bit different, but the more that I write, I find that it gets better.
Totally.
You know what I mean, right? So, but that being said, like a lot of musicians do tend to I'm not gonna say get worse over time, but definitely like lose.
Get like more comfortable.
Whatever the case is, I think that when they'll naturally progress into wherever they're going to go, and then the core, followers or like the fandom and stuff like that, it's going to be hard to stay in the boat with them on such like a long journey from say like a Bob Dylan kind of perspective or something like that, or even, I mean, in punk rock, it's fascinating to see how many of these musicians can still kind of keep like a credible foot in the music industry, or staying alive, even though their band is not necessarily as popular as say it was in the 90s and stuff like that. But guys like Tim Barry has completely revamped his entire career doing folk music now, where it used to be hardcore before, right? So I think in order to stay eating like that when you're not as successful, like you really have to believe in yourself, and whether there's like an ego thing or like it's a love of the game situation, like I don't really know what it is, but to step away at that level, I think is pretty fucking crazy. Like unless you're doing so much blow that your mind is just like, you're like, fuck it, right? Yeah. Like he probably tried to he's like, I'm gonna maybe change the game with this record or something. Maybe he was making some shit that he wasn't into and then lost confidence in himself. I would like to see that biopic.
Yeah, because that's what I kind of feel too, is that as he like moved towards this more like disco poppy like showman type vibe, maybe like he wasn't like flexing that muscle anymore that he was when he was writing like this kind of music. Totally. And then like the song, like obviously he hit a peak and was super successful, but then it kind of fell flat, and when he wasn't getting the response that he used to get, he maybe just like lost confidence and like doesn't know how to go back to something like this because it's been so long where he's been pushed the other direction. Yeah.
I don't know. Like I would be so happy to see, an artist of mine that I would consider has like fallen off in recent, time to go back. I'm trying to think of like an example so I could throw some shade at somebody. AFI. AFI is like a really popular band amongst like teenage girls or something now. And they were when I was a kid or whatever, but it was almost like death rock hardcore, kind of like weird, and the spooky imagery. Like we should have saw it coming. Right. You know what I mean? It was a natural progression or whatever to where it is now. And I can't like get mad at like what like kind of like an art rock death band or whatever now, which like I don't really dig Morrissey or fucking Bauhaus or like the goth scene and shit like that. And much less kind of like poppy emo music with super sad lyrics, right? I like AFI as a hardcore band. So if AFI comes through town, I'm very hesitant to get a ticket to that, even though I have a stack of albums of theirs and I really like what they did up until, you know what I mean, like a certain album. I'd say like The Art of Drowning or something like that is great.
Yeah, and I feel like we've talked about that a lot on here too.
Yeah.
Is like bands like changing, you know, as they go on and progressing.
Flatliners make the Flatliners ska again.
But I think I think you also kind of like you have to grow like as you grow as a person. Otherwise, then it's not genuine anymore. If that's not what you're feeling, and you're just like making the shit that you used to make, even if you've grown past that, and that's not what you want to do anymore. Yeah,
it's fascinating. There's some bands like, I mean, you get like that find their groove and stay in it, and I think like that'll definitely work for you if you have like a loyal following, and you know they kind of all expect the same thing or whatever, right? Or like the Descendants just put out a new album, right? Fucking great. It was awesome because it's exactly what I want from that band. Yeah. You know what I mean? They did exactly what they do. Right. And I fucking was ecstatic. Right. You know, about it, right? But you know, especially like younger kids, it's kind of weird. It would be weird to see like, you know what I mean, like a younger musician, you know, traveling and touring and meeting so many people, and you know what I mean, getting better at, you know, at sharpening all the tools in the toolbox for them to just kind of do the same thing over and over again would be kind of weird. But I guess to each their own. I don't know. Well, and you were like the Descendants. Like, when was their last album that came out? They did an album. I want to say. When was that Coffee Spaz one? Maybe. Let's say like 6 years ago or 8 years ago or something like that. Yeah. So maybe it's like if you're like there's that much time off in between albums, it's easier to then go back to what you're doing versus if you're putting out an album every year for 8 years, then your sound is naturally I would say that change. They maybe have like 12 albums over the course of 40 years, right? So I mean, they're not coming every other year, right? Yeah. The same group of musicians and a different singer also do a band called All, and you'll see more progression through that band because I think they have maybe 20. Oh yeah, that's an interesting point. So we were talking about Stay With Me. Yeah. And so Ronnie Wood, I was watching this interview with him. He said that he basically came up with the guitar riff, like riff. Caused her whole rift in the scene with that riff. It's a guitar riff. Yeah, sure. Bend time and space with that lick, Ronnie. Fuck yeah. It's a guitar rift. Could you imagine? Could you imagine the implications on space and time if Ronnie Wood struck a chord? There was a rift. That's probably the reason that we're in the timeline that we're in now. Yeah. You'd have to go back to the time that Ronnie Wood first played this riff for Stay With Me. They created the guitar rift, the great guitar rift. Yeah, all capitalized. In one sense, the guitar player for the Rolling Stones ultimately caused the destruction of Western civilization and the world as we know it. Yeah, yeah. Fascinating. Yeah, yeah. But in another sense, he also came up with the guitar riff for Stay With Me cool. in a dressing room before they were going on stage, kind of just to pump Rod Stewart up. He's like, oh, play something to get me in the zone. So he just be like, fuck you, man, I'm going out there too. Yeah. So he just play something for me, asshole. With these chords, and then eventually Rod then put words to it, and the song grew from there. And I feel like that's fairly common for songwriting in bands. Like they'll have a riff or a beat or a rift first. There's a famous story about the long view or the masturbation song or whatever you want to call it from Green Day. That doom 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 doom. It's just such a classic walking bass line or whatever. Yeah. And apparently Mike Dirnt, whatever the fuck his name is the bass player for Green Day, is sitting on a living room floor watching TV on acid with his bass, just sitting there, just fucking with it or whatever. And then he just found that doo or whatever. So that's kind of that's a cool little. We saw it in Rumors, Fleetwood Mac 2, The Chain. They had that dun, 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 that riff at the beginning of the song that's super recognizable. They had that first before they put lyrics to it. And they it was something that they started playing in concert between songs until eventually it became a song of its own. And so anyways, we see this with bands and songwriting all the time. But do you think
when you're like writing a joke, do you ever like go into it knowing what you want like the rhythm or the tone to be, and then you kind of find the words after?
No, I've never. I would love to think that way, because like I do that after the fact. Like once I know like what the setup and punch is going to be, then like manipulating it to to flow nicer, you know what I mean, in the set, pull the words out and shit like that, and really try to play around with it. And then in the course of that, you might actually find like a different angle or something else to to tack onto it or whatever. So like eventually, by like shorting it down, you do kind of build it out in a different sense, right? If that makes sense to you, right? But I think that it's the same with music or anything. I'm lyrics first, right? So if that's the case, like I know that this is the funny comparison, or this is like where that would be the funniest place to turn the corner or whatever. And then kind of like reverse engineering it from that, I think.
I think, I mean, obviously like we're both are like writers first, so I tend to words come first. But lately, I mean, even in like the new joke that I've been telling, I'm obviously not gonna say it on here, spoil it for you guys.
Come check it out.
But the one that I've been doing,
the godchildren. Fuck yeah, it's a great joke.
So I knew, I guess, that I knew I wanted the turn to be like, I want it to be like very like sincere and like get really quiet, and then be like a wild
it
turn.
Shifts very turns very quickly to like the most horrific thing ever, and it's perfect. Right, because you walk into this thing and you're like, oh, you know what I mean, like you might be in this particular circumstance one day or whatever, and then to turn it on its head like you do is fucking awesome. I love that joke. I wish you could say it on here. Go see her live.
Come watch me, but yeah, so I think that one, I knew, I kind of like had an idea in my head, and I forget, I was thinking, I think I was like working out a set for that night or whatever when I was writing it, and I kind of wanted to add something to it, and
the way that the rhythm does flow, I do see what you mean, because it is poetry at that point, right? Like know that it's gonna work, right? But like finessing it to the point that it kind of it builds like that, right?
And I remember like sitting there for a while trying to think of the right words to get to where I wanted to get, like to make it fit the way that it does. Like I was sitting there like on like fucking like thesaurus.com and be like, what can I like put here that would like make sense in like both like
isn't that the fucking worst, right? The best joke that you could ever do comes to you so quickly, but the amount of time it takes afterwards to like really like fucking polish it up is fuck. I know what you mean. That's a painstaking, thankless job.
God.
But I don't know, it's kind of my favorite part.
Okay, last question.
Okay, cool.
So, like I said, the Faces, they're kind of notorious for their live performances being like rowdy and like liquor fueled.
These guys. Great one. Cool. The last thing that I would think of when I think of this fucking band is like, park them up full of tough guys.
Right? Well, I don't know if tough guys, but partiers for sure.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
And so Rod Stewart would like walk on stage with a full bottle of, Jim Beam or whatever, and would be like taking swigs from the bottle throughout the whole concert. Woo. And there was like one thing I was reading where someone said that like during the concert there were like moments, because he's like fucking running all over stage and stuff, there were moments where he would get like flustered. You could see like he forgot where he like set the bottle down and stuff. And that's
why you just need a stool, man. Stand still. Like I don't know, that's I guess that's the difference in the performance that we do, but
but they're also heavy drug users, like I said, pills, cocaine, all the good shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
All that, that 70s, that good 70s shit.
Take us up.
Yeah, and the drummer, Kenny Jones, gave an interview where he said that like recording with the band was basically like the same deal. There was like a pub up the road from the recording studio, and they would like would purposely get into like a drunken stupor before they would record or before they'd go on stage. Like that's just like where they were comfortable, and they wanted it to be very loose and like very like kind of messy and stuff.
That's awesome.
And so and like we saw this obviously with the recording of Rumors as well.
Yeah.
And they obviously created greatness. And
I think I know where you're going with this.
well, but we've been talking a lot lately about trying like not to drink when we're doing stand up.
Yeah.
And so what is the difference there between these two types of performances, where it's like, one, if you're performing music, you can be like shit-faced and put on a great fun show and just have a fucking party on stage. But for the most part, there are some exceptions.
Definitely.
But for the most part, you don't want to see a fucking stand-up comedian on stage shit-faced taking swigs from a bottle.
No, and like a Wednesday fucking show at 7:30, right? Saturday late show, rowdy with the crowd and stuff like that. I think it's a little bit different, right? But I have a problem, I think. Well, it's not really a problem, but right now I'm thinking about like the material that I do have and like the rooms that we're doing. I think like just adjusting what I'm gonna do for each environment, right? Because I mean, if you're coming, you go out for, like I said, a fucking meal on a Tuesday and maybe check out a comedy show. We're lucky that anybody even wants to go see a comedy show on Tuesday, right? So for somebody to get drunk and scream down their fucking throat, right? It's kind of, and there's like a level of professionalism too, because I give a shit about the thing. So.
And it's
also
not like
that,
we have like a whole band behind us that's like putting on a show too.
No,
it's
nobody's
like
gonna fucking exactly.
Yeah.
There's nobody that's gonna like pick up for you if you miss a chord or play something wrong, right? It's really it's up there, and you really don't have anybody to blame for it but yourself for a bad show or whatever, unless the fucking crowd sets a fire in the fucking in the bathroom or something like that. Really, it should be up to you to to do as well as you can, I think, right? So a way to do that I think would be better with a little bit less booze. I do think though that there is something to be said about like a 2 or 3 beer pocket that you know what I mean, you're kind of in, and there's a difference between I'm gonna comfortably have 1 or 2 with talk to the rest of the comics and shit before my set and go up and then get the fuck out of there. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but like the excessive drinking, the boozing that we've done at a few of these ones, and we could probably curb some of that.
What do you think is the drunkest you've been on stage?
Oh fuck. You might know better than me, I think. To be honest, I might not.
I don't know.
I might not remember. There was a couple. I think one at Crow's Court when we were outside, where we kind of dummied a 2.6 of like vodka or something. We were drinking out of Sprite bottles.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got the huge,
I was pretty drunk when
the huge thing of cider, and we were spiking those with vodka too.
That's the drunkest I've been on stage. Yes, when you're taking 7% cider and fucking filling it with like half a cup of vodka. That's probably the drunkest I think I've been on stage, for sure. But I mean, that is like a glorified open mic with like a bunch of comics and stuff.
Exactly.
So like, it wasn't bad.
That was fun. There was I
literally
don't think there was an audience.
No, I've never been like really
comics.
shit-faced in front of an audience, but I have been like, there was the really early steps, the really early spots at Susie's for sure.
Yeah, I think like
but like 5 beers to get up the courage enough to get on there and stuff, and now I think like I have like longer, more intricate sets that I kind of also want to, fucking remember the way that I wrote them and get them to be as good as I want to, right? So like you shouldn't train liquored up.
Yeah.
Right.
And
so if that's kind of what you're doing trying to get better, then it's probably not the best.
Yeah, definitely the early sets. There are a bunch that like I would wake up the next day and wouldn't even remember doing the set. Yeah. And now like,
well, I think like we also we do like the after set celebration like a little too hard. Like, calm down.
Yeah. But it's at least now though.
We just
I
have
think
so much fun.
Yeah. But then when we were first starting, we would be drinking like hours before the show leading up to it, and then be drinking during the show, and then be drinking after the show. And so when we were up on stage, like we'd be drunk, like not even like drunk.
Absolutely, I think we play it off like pretty well or whatever, right? Nobody's ever mentioned it, maybe they might have thought it, right? But we're not
Yeah.
like the, we don't roll in shit-faced and make a scene.
Exactly.
Right?
We're not
And I
like
think that's
sloppy or messy.
yeah, right.
about
So,
it.
but maybe
Yeah.
just fucking cut the shit before it gets there.
yeah. But I think, I think I prefer being able to remember
Yeah.
the set
100%.
and not being on stage and thinking, oh, I'm drunk right now, and like kind of stumbling around and
Right.
being worried about tripping over the cord or some shit like that, and like, oh, can they tell that I'm drunk and
It's
all
not a
this
good look.
shit. Yeah, I think it's better. Two or three drinks, maybe get into it a bit afterwards, but
That's
not,
my favorite part, right? Is because
Yeah.
afterwards talking, it's like if it's the same as any job, right? You want to bullshit with your coworkers or whatever at
Yeah.
the thing, right? That's where I like to have the drinks, so is afterwards. But really trying to focus on what I'm doing beforehand, and maybe and I'm not even smoking weed before I go up. That's
Oh,
another
yeah.
thing too. Like I'm spaced out on that, so
Yeah, I can't. I think
might
there
be
was like
boring
one.
and not partying, but the jokes are much better.
Yeah. I think there was like one time that I maybe like took a couple hits off of Gerard's joint before going up.
That'll
and
do it.
I was like on stage like stoned, but like being like I can handle being stoned, like
Yeah.
whatever, but being stoned in front of an audience
I hosted that
when
show
all
last
of their
Thursday.
attention is on you.
Yeah,
like,
it's ridiculous. I hosted
Yeah.
that show last Thursday, and Am was fucking blasting
yeah.
joints like the entire show, basically.
yeah.
When he was out,
his
he was
eyes
just out
were
front.
like half closed.
Well,
I wasn't even.
He mentioned it before he went on stage. He's like, I don't fucking know where I am right now, man.
Yeah, I wasn't even going up that night, and like he offered me a hit of the joint, and I was like, no, like I'm looking to stay awake for the
Yeah.
evening.
Yeah.
Like,
Good man.
Yeah,
So I respect
all the
anybody that
power
can
to
do
you.
it.
I
Yeah,
can't
exactly.
do it.
Right.
Yeah,
That's just the thing. Is like, I really don't like where I'm at, or I try to just like be in the moment a little bit when you're up there and shit, and I'm like hyper aware that I'm like looking down
Yeah.
at myself. It's too much.
It is,
I smoke fucking weed every day. I don't need to do it
Yeah,
for like something that's
exactly.
like important, right?
yeah. I think I'm more of a. I'm in the stage in my life where smoking weed is really just like a get to sleep thing.
Yeah.
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 If I do it during the day, then I don't want to do anything else.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I did with the day off here. Was just
Yeah,
nursed
exactly.
a
If you-
hangover and
yeah.
just napped or whatever, right? Like that's cool, right? But you can't
Yeah.
do that shit every day, you lazy son of a bitch.
Yeah, it is like a weird like job though, where like part of our, like, obviously not everyone is like this, but like part of the job for like us, it's like, oh well, we're gonna like probably like have a few drinks afterwards, and I feel like I've been noticing it especially since things reopen, and it's been like a lot of shows being like, oh shit, this is a lot of days in a row, and I know I'm gonna be drinking at all these shows.
Yeah.
And I'm like fucking exhausted from doing like fucking like 7 to 10 minutes of work,
Yeah.
and then
yeah.
just getting shit faced,
Yeah.
spending way more than we make, like
Far
losing
more.
money.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah. It's the pursuit, I guess, or whatever, right? And I think that's I don't know, it'd be cool. Maybe I should start drinking tea. I don't know. We'll figure it out one day. We'll figure it out one day. Either way, it's I don't know. It's a shitload of fun.
Yeah.
And I think there's a difference between, like, a 6-pack and a bottle of whiskey or something.
Exactly.
Like that,
It's
right?
not like we're going on to stage with a bottle of Jim Beam.
No, that's
taking
awesome.
swigs throughout.
Yeah,
the set.
like
That would
Rod Stewart, fucking more power to you, bud.
Yeah,
I don't like your body, nor do I find you sexy, but
I will say that I like have always like I find myself like envious of I wish I could perform in like a musician does, like be on stage fucking running around and jumping around and like being able to make music like that and put on a
100%.
show like that.
that would be so much more fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's like the class. A lot of musicians that would rather be comedians. A lot of comedians that would rather be musicians.
Yeah.
I feel, everybody wants to be a rock star at some point or something, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty common thing, right? But like we do this to talk about music because I never formed a band or whatever.
Yeah.
I like had the patience enough to learn how to play an instrument well enough to be in one, right?
Yeah.
But I can talk shit and
Yeah.
write jokes. So
Nice.
that's the path. This is the life we chose, Jax.
All right, final thoughts on the album.
It was cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I like it's the perfect length. It's a Warner Brothers property, so if you're following the new Space Jam 2 folklore, Algae Rhythm is he can essentially travel all the way through this album and plug
Yeah.
it, and against maybe put Rod Stewart up against LeBron in a situation maybe.
Yeah.
Right. So check out Space Jam 2. It's absolutely horrible.
Yeah, anyone who's listening who likes classic rock and hasn't listened to Faces, check out this album.
For sure.
You'll probably really like it.
It's good.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's all I got for ya.
You want to bounce?
Yeah.
Peace.